What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Papa, and today we're going to be looking at one of my absolute favorite data sets that TCGPlayer sends out towards the beginning of every month. And what it is they compile the list of all of the Pokemon cards that have been selling with the highest degree of velocity on their website for the previous month. And the reason that is so important to me, the reason why I literally consider this video series chock full of gold, is because when you think about what drives prices in the Pokemon market, it is nothing more than supply and demand, right? That is absolutely it. And when a site like TCGPlayer, with its buying and selling velocity, when they share with us what's going on behind the curtains and they say, listen, these are the 10 cards that have sold in the previous month with the highest degree of velocity, like, that is everything to me, because what we have done is we've been doing this video series for 3 years. We went back and we looked at all the cards that were on the list in 2024 and all the ones that were on the list in 2023. And we saw how those prices have moved since. And what we found is that cards that were on this list 3 or more times throughout the course of a calendar year, they outperformed cards that were on this list only once or twice by magnitudes. It is not even close. So this video series is telling us exactly what's important when it comes to cards that are going to appreciate in value over time. And that is demand. And man, I absolutely love this. So what I try and do throughout the course of this video is do more than just show you the 10 cards and what they are and what their current prices are. I'm going to go through and I'm going to try and add more. And by that, I mean, you're going to see this little tag. It's going to say 3+ heroes on some of these cards. That designates cards that have already been on this list 3 or more times throughout the course of 2025. And that's because, again, if it follows the same pattern as the cards from 2024 and 2023, they're going to have a strong opportunity for price appreciation in the future. And when you see some of those cards, I have a feeling you're going to agree with that as well. The other thing that I do is I show you this numbers of stars system. So what the stars are going to represent is the number of consecutive months that these cards have been on the list. So if a card has been on here 3 months in a row, you're going to see 3 stars next to it. Some of these cards have been on this list 5 months in a row, and I'm going to talk about how important that is, and we're going to see the difference that it has made in the pricing. It's just absolutely phenomenal. The other thing that I'm going to show you too is not just the price of the card, but we're going to look at the price of the sealed product that that card comes from. So if it's from a specialty set, we're going to look at the price of the Pokemon Center exclusive ETB. If it's a regular set, we're going to look at the set, the booster box price that it comes from, because those are really important too. And again, we're going to talk about what we learned there. And the other thing that I do want to call out too is this is directly from TCGPlayer. This isn't any data that I pull. They're the ones who send this list out. And it starts off with cards that were $50 or higher at the beginning of the previous month. Nothing wrong with solid cards in the $20, $30 range, but this list right here, these cards all started off at $50 or more, some of the higher end stuff, which is a ton of fun. Now, I will say this, if you get into this, if you love the data side of things, if you get a lot of value out of this, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those 2 small things go a really long way in helping my small channel out, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. But as I say that, I'm going to take just a quick pause, because one of my many character flaws is that I don't celebrate all of these milestones along the way of the journey. And what I wanted to do today is just give a sincere and heartfelt thank you to everybody out there. So Pika Papa channel just crossed 20,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone, and it would not be possible without all of you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there who've supported me throughout the years. You know, in all transparency, I don't think I started off with this YouTube journey because I really wanted to have a huge YouTube channel, and 20,000 subs isn't huge, but we're getting there. But all I wanted to do was use my love of Pokemon and my love of data and trend analysis and merge it all together and just try and provide the best information that I can to collectors like me out there, because I know how hard you work for your money. I know how hard I work for mine. And I want to make sure that whenever we decide to spend it, we at least do it with the best data that we can. So a huge thank you to everybody out there. I just could not do this without you, and I can't tell you how much I just appreciate all the support. The other person I want to shout out is BA Team Player. So if you're not familiar with BA Team Player, that is an individual who reached out to me about 1.5 years ago and said, Pika Papa, I love your content, love your channel, but your thumbnails suck and your editing skills are absolute booty. So he said, hey, I am willing to help you out. We worked out a partnership, and that is a gentleman who's been helping me a ton with all of my thumbnails and has recently been helping me with the editing of the videos, and this channel wouldn't be what it is without him. So a big shout out to him, and then of course big shout out to my wife and family who allow me the time to do this. I try and make sure that I shoot it early in the morning or late at night so it doesn't interfere with them, but inevitably there's some crossover, and they're very supportive, and they're the reason I do everything I do. So with that out of the way, let's start looking at some of these really awesome cards. Now, as always, before we look at the awesome cards, we got to take a minute and look at the cards that were on the list last month, but have subsequently fallen off. And as you can see, there are some really, really cool cards here on this list. So you have the Eevee, which is the Pokemon Center exclusive stamped promo from that Prismatic Evolutions box. I'm telling you right now, that is a card I am a huge believer in the long term. I don't care how many months it's featured on this video series. I am a big, big believer in that. I think as those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes continue to appreciate in value and price, I think as Prismatic Evolutions continues to age, the pull rates are so bad, the gem rate is so bad, I just think everything in that set's going to pop off, so I think that is a really cool card. Now, the Squirtle from Stellar Crown right there was on the list last month, didn't make it this month. I did designate it. That is a 3+ hero. It's going to be interesting to see if that one follows the trend as the majority, or if it kind of breaks off and doesn't follow with those big price gains, because who knows, it's just an illustration rare, it's not a big name. My daughter loves Squirtle, so I'm not knocking Squirtle at all, but we'll just have to see. And then Misty Psyduck, one of my favorite cards. My oldest daughter's a redhead, love everything Misty. One of my favorite cards from Destined Rivals that fell off the list. And then that Vaporeon promo. So I went back and looked. That card has actually been featured one other time in this top 10 list throughout the course of 2025. How crazy is that? The Sword and Shield promo, if you remember, it came from the Vaporeon, the Jolteon, right? Came from those promo boxes, which I used to pick up in Walmart all the time. And the artwork is really awesome. The gem rates are just absolutely abysmal. Obviously, everything Evolutions is hot. So it's been on the list twice so far in 2025, but it fell off this week. So now let's look at the cards that are actually on the list. And coming in at number 10 is this Rayquaza from Evolving Skies. And again, I talk a lot about how all of our videos have a tendency to merge together. Well, if you remember, as soon as Storm Emeralda, which is a Japanese name for a future Mega Evolution set, which is going to be coming out much later in the year. I can't remember if it's later in this year or early next year. Either way, it's on the horizon. We all had a very strong feeling, and still do, that that's going to be a Rayquaza focused set. So we did a whole video series on some big Rayquaza cards that might pop off. And this is one of the cool ones that I think has started to do that. So Evolving Skies is obviously the biggest set from the Sword and Shield era. Ray is obviously one of the most popular Pokemon out there. This alt art is absolute fire. And then you have all of the opportunity for what could happen if we do have a big Rayquaza set coming up here in the future. We traditionally see the older cards of those big featured Pokemon have a tendency to pop off in price. We talk about that a lot on this channel. This one might be popping off just a little bit early in anticipation. We'll have to see, but a really strong card to start this list off with, because it shows a whole lot of things that we're always focused on in this channel, kind of the macro level of why things happen versus just staring at what has. Now, the next card we're going to talk about right here, super interesting one, the Ancient Mew. Now, if you remember this was a promo card, and man, talk about abysmal gem rates. I mean, this thing has an absolutely atrocious gem rate, but there is a ton of them out there. So this thing has really laid dormant in terms of pricing for quite a while, just hovering around the $65, $70 mark. I mean, it's really been there for a couple years, and then all of a sudden, it gets hot. We've seen a lot of Mew cards. Spoiler alert, you're going to see another Mew card here throughout the course of this video. But as we start seeing Mew and Mewtwo cards taking off again, we've seen a bunch of them in our week-over-week Sunday series where TCGPlayer shares with us the cards that are the hottest on their website over the last 7 days. We've seen a ton of Mew and Mewtwo cards, right? And so this one just pops off as well, up 34% over the last 3 months. But really, most of that has come over the last 3 to 4 weeks. So I thought it was a really cool blast from the past card to see just pop up randomly here on cards that have exchanged hands the most on TCGPlayer over the last month. Next one right here, no surprise to anybody, the Charizard from 151. And this is the first one where you're going to see our 3+ hero designation of cards that are featured this month, and 5 stars. This card has been featured 5 months in a row. And for me, the big takeaway is from this is if you look at how the price has moved over the last 6 months, that you'll see really 6 months ago, it was sitting there at about $280. And then it started working its way down. And even though the price was working its way down, obviously, because it's been on this list 5 consecutive months, even though the price was working its way down, the buying and selling volume was not deteriorating at all. It was still a top 10 card in terms of buying and selling. So the price was coming down, but the demand was still there. This was a fantastic example. And we're going to talk a lot. There's a lot of 151 cards on the list this month, but it is a fantastic example of a card where the price is deteriorating because the broader market is, but the demand is still sky high. So it had no reason to do that. So for me, this is going to be another awesome example for us to take a look at further down the road. There are going to be other times where we see the broader market turning down. Awesome cards like this are just losing value for no apparent reason, but the demand is super high. I'm going to try and do a better job of calling those out next time we see them, because this is the type of price appreciation I truly feel like we can expect. If you look over the last month, this thing has just taken off. Yes, over the last 6 months, it's only up 2.7%, but look, it was working its way up from a low of under $200 all the way up to almost 270 bucks today. Absolutely wild. And I've shared this before and I'll share it again. Matter of fact, this card was just featured yesterday in the cards that are spiking the most on the TCGPlayer. I think this card has a very high ceiling. I don't think $300 is the ceiling. Truth be told, I don't think $400 is the ceiling. If you have a very long time horizon, I think this card's going to do really, really well. So the next card that we're talking about right here, no surprise, is another 151 card, and this is the Venusaur. And the thing that I'm going to talk about here with the Venusaur, so I'm not too redundant on it, is look at the way the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer Box pricing is there on the left. So when you are chasing sealed product, okay, sealed product doesn't really go down in price. It will wobble a little bit, it'll come down, but we don't see the big price drops that we see from time to time in the singles card space. So that can be a little bit of a deterrent, right? Sometimes it can make you feel like, oh my God, I missed the boat on this sealed product. But when you look at that Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer Box and you see that bright blue line, right, that represents price and how it's moved over time. If you look in March of 2025, all the way till about June of 2025, the price came down just a little bit, but it was really directionally flat. Now, we knew back then 151 was a set for the ages. We knew it had the Venusaur, the Blastoise, the Charizard, the Zapdos. Like, we knew the gem rate was absolutely terrible, and we knew that it was going to be a very special set that people were going to remember very fondly 5-10 years from now. So even though it might have stunk that you weren't able to buy that back a year ago when it was going for $120, or even 8 months ago when it was going for $300, even though you might have missed that boat, when you see a very high-priced item like this and it starts to flatten out a little bit, if you decide that you want to jump in and if you have a very strong conviction for its long-term opportunities in the sealed space, that's the time to do it. So this Venusaur right here obviously followed a very similar pattern to the Charizard right there, and as you can see, it's working its way back up, but I wanted to use this Venusaur slide to talk about sealed product there for a minute too. Next one that's on this list, Zapdos. Even though it has only been on here 2 consecutive months, it has been on here 3 times over the course of 2025, so it's got that 3+ hero mark right there, and man, look at what this card has done here as of late. This card is shot up to $80 on TCGPlayer. The other cards that we looked at were barely up or barely down. I mean, I'm talking plus or minus 5% versus where they were 6 months ago. This card has blown the roof off. This card is up 32% versus where it was 6 months ago, with almost all of those gains coming in the last couple months. Now remember, it says Zapdos on the top, but you have the legendary birds here as well. So there is a lot going on, a lot of awesomeness here on this card. Again, it's been featured multiple times throughout the course of 2025 on this list, and I have no surprise that this card is on here again, and I guarantee you it's going to be on here even more in the future. Just a fantastic card. Love everything about it. And again, I love the fact that, yeah, Zapdos is the name Pokemon on here, but you got a couple awesome ones in the background there too. Next one that we're going to talk about is the Greninja. Okay, now this card, it's just amazing. It really is. I don't know what else to say. Like, this card, the artwork, everything about it is phenomenal. And if you remember the set that this was tied to, Shrouded Fables, not a lot of people were a big fan of it when it came out. Not a lot of people are a fan of it right now, but this is one way that they were able to get people to buy the product. This promo card with kind of like the wood grain artwork on it really is phenomenal. And then when you think about Greninja, there's a lot of positive momentum in the Scarlet and Violet era overall, because you have that special illustration rare from Twilight Masquerade. We see this time and time again. You know, where a big chase card from a particular era that has a lot of fanfare, it can really elevate and pull up some of the other cards. Now, this card didn't need a whole lot of pulling. I mean, the artwork is awesome. It's so incredibly unique, so incredibly special. It's just a really, really cool card. We have not seen it featured on this video series before, so really awesome to see it jump up here in the top 10 cards that have sold the most on TCGPlayer last month. But again, a really strong price point. Over the last 6 months, it is up almost 100%, coming in a plus 97% over the last 6 months, sitting at just shy of $65. Really, really cool card. Now, next one we're going to talk about is a card I am a huge fan of, simply because It is number 2 behind Charizard, and I think that Charizard card, as I said earlier, has an extremely high ceiling, and I think there will be multiple cards from the 151 set that are going to be well north of $100, and I think this Blastoise is going to be the first one to cross that mark, and then I think it's just going to continue to gain momentum, right? At the end of September, that marks 2 years since 151 came out. There's no hard set rules, there's nothing written in stone, but traditionally, once you pass that 2-year mark, the odds of it being re-released out into the wild become lower and lower and lower. Not saying we won't see some 151 continue to trickle in, but it's just at a much, much depressed rate. So when you have a card like this Blastoise, which has been on here 3+ months over the course of 2025, 5 consecutive months right here, it's still down 5% versus where it was 6 months ago, well under the $100 mark, coming in at $81. I love everything about this. I think this card has a very, very bright future in front of it, just like I said from all the other ones, but especially this one. I think the upside on this one versus the Charizard, which already is starting off at $270 right now, I think this one starting off in $80 is a very, very strong opportunity. Now, next card we're going to talk about here is another Charizard from Obsidian Flames, and when you talk about abysmal gem rates, they don't get any worse than Obsidian Flames. Absolutely the worst gem rate of the Scarlet and Violet era, and then you have this stunning Charizard card right here. And I'll be honest with you, I've talked about this card a lot, and it was hovering around the $50, $60 range for most of the year. I did not have a $122 Obsidian Flames Charizard card on my bingo card for 2025. I would have thought maybe it'd get up to the $70, $80, maybe even $90 range, but I gotta be honest, like sometimes, hey, I'm human, like I'm wrong just as much as I'm right. I never in a million years would have thought this card would pop up to $122. Now, it's yet to be seen if it can maintain that price point, but with the way everything's going right now, there's so much positive momentum in Scarlet and Violet, I would not be surprised if this card didn't be able to maintain that price point. But it's another great example of a card where the price really wasn't moving much, but this video series continued to tell us, listen, the demand is there. Even though it's a $45, $50, $55 Charizard, even though it's from the very first Charizard set of the Scarlet and Violet generation, which traditionally, if you look at Sun and Moon, if you look at Sword and Shield, right, like these usually aren't the biggest sets. The first 3 or 4 sets of the generation traditionally don't do that well. Even though it had all those things working against us, we just continued to see demand for this card be sky high, even though the price wasn't there to match. So what do we see in the long run? Demand eventually wins out, price spikes up, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this in the long run. And again, it has a very, very low gem rate, which I think will continue to keep prices strong, and I think is going to continue to keep this card relevant for a very long time. So really, really cool stuff right here. Next one we're looking at right here, it's the Kingdra. It's the same thing that we were talking about from that Greninja card, just another really cool piece of artwork right here. A little bit more of a stair-step pattern in terms of the pricing, right? I like to see it be just a little bit more smooth versus this up and down type pattern. To me, when I see that, when I see the long flats and then I see the angle up and then the flats and the up and the flats, you know, to me that gives me not a little bit of angst, but it just gives me a little more questions around if it's going to be able to retain this really high price point. Because again, look at this, 6 months ago, this was a $25 card. Now it's up 192%, coming in at just shy of 70. So beautiful card, stunning artwork, certainly worthy of being in anybody's collection, but we'll have to keep an eye on the price point and see how it moves over the long run. And then the final card, the #1 card that's sold with the highest degree of velocity on TCGPlayer's website is the Mew. And this is the amazing alt art promo card from the 151 Ultra Premium Collection, where those boxes are now going for like $550. It is just absolutely lunacy to think that we have this card featured on a top 10 under $10 list. And actually, if I think about it, I believe at one point this was on a top 5 under $5 list. It just goes to show you, it doesn't necessarily matter where a card starts. And if we were to think about that, if we were to take a step back when this was a $5, $6, $7 card, and we were to put our thinking caps on, we would have thought we knew 151 was going to be a phenomenal set even before the market got crazy. We knew it, right? Obviously, this is an alt art card, which is always great for a promo. Obviously, it's Mew. When you think about the most popular Pokemon out there, it's Mew. We know that those 151 Ultra Premium Collection boxes from a sealed perspective are going to do really, really well. Like, we knew this card was going to do well. I don't know if I had, again, I don't know if I had $70 in 2025. Well, I don't know if I would have quite put my cap on that one, but I did think that this card was going to do really well. And again, I continue to talk about this because it's very, very important. You know, the gem rate on this card is really low. You know, they were just thrown into those plastic sleeves. They were thrown into the Ultra Premium Collection boxes. And so I think that this card, from a gem rate perspective, is really special. I think the fact that it comes from a sealed box, which is just shy of $600 right now, is very special. The fact that it's an alt art, the fact that it's one of the most popular Pokemon ever, like, I could go on and on and on. This card is an amazing card. It's going to do really well. And again, just some more great lessons for us to take away. So That's it. Those are the 10 cards that have moved and shaped and sold with the most velocity on TCGPlayer over the last 30 days. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. One final thank you to everybody. You all are the reason I do this. I truly just, I don't know, I can't thank you enough. Like, I get so much excitement and so much energy from producing this content from you. And every single time I see a new subscriber, every single time, I get some thumbs up or I read through some of the comments, it just fills my heart with joy. It really does. So if you made it to the end, if you had fun, do those two things. Hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. I can't wait to celebrate again at 25K and have an epic rest of your day, okay? Thanks, everybody. Bye.